today we are going to discuss Unit 2 second part, that is introduction to Servlet. So let's discuss what are the topics that I will cover now. Okay, first introduction on Java Servlet, that is it contains what is Servlet and what is the execution of Servlet and what are the different advantages of Servlet and the architecture of Servlet, how it will be there and how it will work. Okay, how Servlets works. So let's see one by one that how Servlet is going to rule the web applications. Okay, any company want to develop the website, that can be developed in two ways, right? You know, right? That is two ways, nothing but you can have like a static website and dynamic website. So static is one where there is no interaction from the end user, right? To develop static web pages or websites, we can use markup languages like HTML, XML, JavaScript, etc., right? And the dynamic website is one in which there exists end user interaction. That means to develop dynamic websites in industry, we have a lot of technologies such as CGI, Common Gateway Interface, and .NET, etc. There are plenty of dynamic web languages are there, and that is used to develop a dynamic website. In the recent years, Sun Microsystems has developed a technology called Servlets to develop the dynamic websites and also for developing a distributed applications. Okay, so let's see introduction to Servlet. Its technology is used to create web applications, and here the Servlet technology uses Java language to create web applications, so must need to use Java code there. And web applications are helper applications that resides at a web server and build dynamic web pages. A dynamic page could be anything like a page that randomly chooses pictures to display, or even a page that displays a current time. Okay, so you have to get a Java language. I mean, you have to learn a Java language, then only you can able to at least a basics of Java. It's enough for that. Okay, and see what is the Servlet now. Servlet can be thought of as server-side applet, and here this Servlet program can be executed on server side. Okay, and see, we'll have a difference between applet and Servlet. So applet, a Java program that runs within the browser, within the web browser, right? So Servlet, a Java program that runs within the web server. That's the difference. Okay, and servlets can be loaded and executed by a web server in the same manner that applets are loaded and executed by the web browser. Okay, and let's see what is the servlet response generation here. Consider like a client and a server is there, and from client which it has uses a HTTP protocol, which it can able to send response and request from client to server. So client uses a web browser, and server side which it has a web server software. Either here in a Servlet execution we can use like Tomcat, Apache Tomcat web server. In PHP that is also server side scripting language, where we are using that XAMPP or WAMP server to execute PHP program. Here in Servlet, if you want to execute the server side, then you have to use like Apache Tomcat web server. Okay, and now here the Servlet can be as it will send a response. First, it will send a request for the server. If the particular request is coming from the client part, it automatically checks the Servlet program. A Servlet can able to regenerate response at a runtime, and then the response will be sent to the client part. So that is how the Servlet response will be generated from the client part to, I mean server part to client part. Okay, so for each and every two middle layer, definitely the request and response will be takes place, right? So through HTTP protocol, the response and request will be taken place. And now Here which uses one servlet program which it will checks all the classes and interfaces regarding the response and request. Based on that, it generates a response to that at a runtime, and then it sends the response to the client. Okay, so that is the response generation. Let's see another, that is what are the a servlet can be described in many ways. Okay, so depending on the context you can able to describe in many ways. Servlet is a technology which it is used to create web applications. Okay, and the servlet is an API, application programming interface, that provides many interfaces and classes including documentation. Okay, the servlet is an interface that must be implemented for creating any servlet. So here servlet is a class that extends the capabilities of servers and responds to incoming request. It can respond to any request. Okay, and here the servlet is a web component that is deployed on the server to create a dynamic web page. So like that you can able to describe in many ways depending on the context. Now let's see the execution of Java servlet. So here servlets are used at server side. Okay, servlets are used at the server side. When a user request is a request for a web page entered by a URL in the web browser generates HTTP request to the appropriate web server, and then web server maps this request with a specific file. The file is returned in the form of HTTP response. To handle these requests at server side, we require a servlet. Okay, so here servlets are used at the server side. Yes, of course, when a user requests a web page by entering an URL, the browser generates a request, and if the specific file is there, if the specific servlet file is there, then it checks, it returns a form HTTP response back and send response to web browser. That is how the execution of a servlets will take place. Okay, let's see benefits of servlets. Okay, so here benefits of servlets, nothing but you can have like a performance, portability, rapid development cycle, robustness, and widespread acceptance. Okay, performance, here the performance of a servlet is superior to CGI, so which it is better than the CGIs, because there is no process creation for each client request, and each request is handled by the servlet container process only. After servlet has completed processing a request, it stays resistant in memory waiting for another request. That's a performance. Okay, and portability, here like other technology, Java technology, servlet applications are portable. Rapid development cycle. As Java technology, servlets have access to rich Java library that will help speed up the development process. Okay, robustness, here the servlets are managed by the JVM, that is Java Virtual Machine, and don't need to worry about the memory leak or garbage collection, which helps you write robust applications. So widespread acceptance, here Java is a widely accepted technology. So like there are many more benefits of Java servlet. We can also call as advantages of Java servlet. And next one, we see what can you build with the servlets. So by using servlet, what are the different things you can able to build by using the servlet. First, you can able to use, you can create search engines. It can be useful for e-commerce applications. There is electronic commerce applications. You can able to develop it, and you can able to create dynamic shopping carts and product catalogs. Nothing but you can have like a sequence flow of products, like searching of a product, filtering of a product, sorting of a product, and product details. Like that you can able to create product catalog. And personalization systems, you can configure the systems also, even intranet applications also you can able to develop easily. Groupware applications also you can develop, like bullet boards and file sharing, like that, etc. Okay, so there are many more you can able to build with servlets. Okay, and let's see servlet architecture. So web browser which it has one position. There are the components. You can able to remember that what are the different components of servlet architecture will have means web browser will have, and HTTP server will have, servlet program will have, and database will be have, and in between HTTP server and web browser the protocol should be there, that is HTTP protocol. So remember, for web browser hits an URL. By entering the URL content, the request will be sent through HTTP protocol to HTTP server. So HTTP server is responsible to request the response coming from the web browser, and it will check HTTP headers. If the headers is perfectly there, by using that header form methods and headers, the information whatever the request is coming from the web browser, it will send to a servlet program. The servlet program will automatically, which it is there in a web container, and then it can able to execute that program, and if the query is related to database, it will fetch the values from the database, and then it sends a response. So it will starts from web browser and ends at web browser only. So in the middle of the session, the HTTP server is responsible for taking care of HTTP response and request. A servlet program is executed by the web server, and which it has, if the connection of database is there, then it will check. If the connection of not database, then it won't check like that. Okay, it sends in a form of HTML itself. Okay. A server, then we'll see servlet performs following different major tasks. Okay, so here in one more example with a browser which it sends a request, and here it will get response. Somewhere the response is getting and where request is going means into web server itself it is going. So servlet web container will have servlet program, and web container means nothing but a space where the servlet program stores. Okay, so the servlet can be executed by web server, and it will separate the HTML part, and then if the servlet has some query related like database fetching, then it will fetch the value from the database, and then it will stores the value, and then it in the form of HTTP response through HTML page it will send to the client. So that is all the client server architecture with the Java servlet. Let's see servlets perform following major tasks. Here it can read explicit data sent by the client browsers. Okay, so you read means like this includes a HTML form on a web page, or it could also come from applet or a custom HTTP client program. Okay, and read the implicit HTTP request data sent by the client's browsers, and that means it includes cookies, media types, and compression schemes that browser understands, and so forth. Okay, and process the data and generate the result. Here this process may require talking to the database and executing an RMA or call, invoking the web service, or computing the resource directly. So like send the explicit data means that is the document to the client's browsers. This document can be sent in a variety of formats like including text, HTML or XML, binary GIF or images, Excel, etc. Next one is send the implicit HTTP response to the client browsers means this include telling the browsers or other clients what type of document is being returned. Example, HTML setting cookies and cookies parameters and other such tasks will be there like that. Okay, now let's see a brief discussion about how a servlet works. Okay, let's see a new concept. I mean with the servlet we have to up to now we'll learn theoretical part. Now let's see how a servlet will work. Okay, first here user sends a request for a servlet by clicking a link that has URL to a servlet. Like here a client is there and it sends a request to a particular servlet for that, and then it by using get method it sending information to a server side. The server side will have web container and a servlet program. Okay, and here the container finds the servlet using a deployment descriptor and creates two objects. see that the container finds the servlet program. Yes, if the servlet is there, then the container, the web container, it finds the servlet and using a deployment descriptor. Deployment descriptor nothing but by using XML program we have to tell where the servlet program is there. Okay, and it creates two objects, that HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. It creates two different objects. Okay, and then the container creates or allocates a thread for that request and calls the servlet's service method. Okay, first one is initialization method. It starts if servlet loaded, then that is initialization method, init method. And second method, that is called service method, which can able to pass the request and response object as an arguments. Okay, so like that you will have like a response service method will have like you pass request and response objects as an argument for that. Okay, and then the service method then decides which servlet method is coming from, that is either do get or do post to call. So based on the HTTP request method like get or post, it's and sent by the client. Suppose a client sent HTTP get request, so the service method will call servlet's do get method. Okay, if it is sending like a post, if sent by the client is post method, then HTTP post, then it sends it checks for call servlet do post method. Okay, based on the HTTP request only the information will be takes place. Now let's see then the servlet uses a response object to write a response back to the client. In the same way how the request is coming from the client side, the same way the server from server side, the client will be send a response to the client. Okay, and then after the service method is completed, the thread dies. That means the destroy method will takes place and the request and response objects are ready for garbage collection, and then it sends a response back to the client part. Okay, so this is how the servlet will work. How the servlet will work, there are plenty of steps, 6 steps are there. That is how servlet will work. The summary on servlets, finally I am giving a summary how the servlets and what is a servlet and what servlet will do and what are the advantages. So servlets uses use it to create a web application, that is dynamic web application, and servlets are the middle layer between a request from the browser or HTTP client and the database application. And servlets are robust and scalable, and servlets are platform independent. Servlet resides at server side and generate dynamic web page, and servlets are used to collect input through the web forms or the show records from the database via web reports. And servlets performance is significantly better than CGI, common gateway interface. Servlets execute within the address space of a web server, so it is not necessary to create a separate process to handle each client request. So finally the point is servlets are secure. Okay, so these are the different points whatever I discussed earlier. So based on that I summarized that. Thank you for watching.